For this episode of Let's Talk Jinx, it's finally time to talk about patch 14.10 notes and the crit item changes specifically. But you know, I gotta ask because I don't learn my lesson. How many of you survived the Vanguard update? Because I'm not on Windows 11, I'm on Windows 10 still. And I was like, okay, cool, I should be able to install it. There's no the bricking issue, blah blah. And it broke my install. So there's that. I got to try and get back on there and get to honor level 3 so I can re-access my PBE because the SKT skins are coming eventually. And if you forget, and you're a Jinx player watching, there's a SKT Jinx skin coming because that's when they won Worlds last year, what Gumayushi wanted. So, that being said, I'm just kind of curious if you had any issues. If not, hopefully you get to keep enjoying the game then, of course. But now for the actual changes, because there's no Jinx changes. And there's actually a ton of changes. It's like the mid-season patch updates they kind of used to do in days of old with how much stuff that they packed in here. What we are going to do is we're going to jump down to the marksman items because the champion changes don't even matter too much or affect Jinx. But some of these might, like Bloodthirster. Bloodthirster is going to be its old self. It's going to no longer have the crit on it. It's going to go back to having 80, attack damage on it. It's going to give the blood overheal shield thing. Thank goodness. That's the only reason I ever loved it. And it's back, so I love it again. But that's just a me thing for y'all. Maybe you did like the fact that items had a bunch of crit in it. But there's a reason they're doing that before you think that's a nerf. Collector's getting some changes too, so it can actually be a good rush if you want to rush this item. The build path, I believe they're going to throw a BF sword in there now. So if you actually want to go Collector, Jinx first item because you want some early game damage but still want crit, you can still do that. Essence Reaver is a bit interesting. They say this one in particular is getting a pretty big change. We're taking away the Spellblade passive from Essence Reaver. It's instead of becoming a stat stick with a very clear purpose, spell casting. Now, Jinx isn't a spell caster necessarily, but if you're doing some like weird, I wouldn't even say weird, maybe it's like a fun kind of like, zap max build and it's working, go for it. Essence Reaver is going to be kind of nice for something like that. Jinx does take quite a bit of mana in the early game, but she does have one of the best mana regenerations in the late game of all champions, period. So that you can eventually just swap over to using Fishbones permanently for the late game. But maybe if you like to experiment, you got some Essence Reaver something going on that you might like then in that case, and then there you go. But let's get to Infinity Edge. You're probably here for Infinity Edge. If I've done my job making a good title and thumbnail, probably haven't, sorry. Here we go. We wanted to bring back a more powerful version of Infinity Edge that feels like it's worth rushing. With these stats, it'll hold its own while waiting for other skillers to come into play and should bring back crit builds to some of the users that had some in the past. With the total gold cost going from 3,300 gold to 3,400 gold, so it's not like the old days. In the old days, it was like 3,600 gold. Y'all remember those days where like the first item you were rushing on most champions and most roles was almost 4,000 gold if you also maybe count boots. So Trinity Force, which used to be like 3,700, and then so with boots, base boots I'm talking about would be like 4,000. Infinity Edge was like 3,600. So with boots, at least base boots again, 39, almost 4,000. 4,000 gold. That was like the thing across the board. Death Cap for mages used to be a rush at one point, and that sucker actually still is as expensive as it always is, unless we go to the mage items real quick, and they're doing something about its cost. I don't think so. Yeah, no. So we're gonna go back down here. Now, that was just a fun fact if you're a newer player and weren't around back then. But yeah, so basically, the critical strike chance is going up from 20% to 25%, and the attack damage is going back from 65 to 80. Good. There's some other changes up in here, like if you build Kraken Slayer, Lord Dominic's Regards. It's losing its Giant Slayer passive, but it's getting raw stats to compensate. Mercurial Scimitar. There's one, I was hoping they would put it in here, but there was one change that was interesting. I'm looking for it real quick. We can talk about some of these other ones too. But Boot Enchants, I think it was for the arena mode specifically, where if you built Berserker's Greaves, you could upgrade it, and it would have ZEPHYR in it. It looks like that is staying on arena, but I was wondering if they'd slide that in here and make us like maybe not notice, because like we technically mentioned it, and here's a surprise, and it would have been a cool surprise. Boot Enchants were awesome. Mercurial Scimitar. Mortar Reminder is getting the crit chance stat up. So Mortar Reminder, if you need anti-heal and crit, will have crit on it still. That's going to be nice. Phantom Dancer is getting a stat facelift actually. So removed, it's no longer going to have attack damage, but instead a lot of its other stats are going up. So 30% attack speed to 60. Critical strike is going up to 25 from 20. Move speed is even going up from 12% to 10%. The cost is actually going down to 2,600 gold from 2,800 gold. So there's some nice things in there. A lot of other items like that too. So a lot of the Zeal items, you would say, they're basically not going to have attack damage on them anymore, which makes sense as an older player. And instead their other stats are just going to be more while their cost is going to be less, and it's nice. Rudon's Hurricane, however, is not going to have on-hit magic damage. That's getting removed. But even that is getting buffed in its other stats. And we like Rune on Shuriken on Jinx because the mini rockets are also count for that. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of it across the board is actually buffs, even though you're going to see the word removed on a lot of these. It's usually something that you probably didn't really need, except this one. So crit strike chance on static shiv is being removed. I'm going to miss it. In the old days, there was this crit magic Jinx build I was able to do that would crit and magic strike, and it was great. Also, that's really it though, so I guess I don't have a horse in the race beyond that. So ZEPHYR is back though as an item just straight up. It's experimental. We'll see how that goes out. They're saying it's experimental, like in the patch notes, by the way. I'm not saying experimental. They're saying it's experimental. And it's gonna build. Oh, okay, so it is. Okay, so I thought this was a arena only change, but yeah, build path. So you build your Berserker's Greaves, and then this is mainly also for like late game. If it's late game and you have an extra 2,000 gold in your pocket and you're done swapping out items, instead of getting rid of your boots for another item, you can now use like 2,000 of your gold with your boots basically to get ZEPHYR. What ZEPHYR does, basically a couple things. The passive, gain 5% move speed for 6 seconds, stacking up to 15%. You get movement speed of 45, attack speed of 45, and we'll see how that goes. Something like Jinx, that could be really fun, since that's the boots we build as Berserker's Greaves. Oh, okay, so I was a little wrong. I thought it was arena only, but no, they are putting it like in the game. There we go. Cool. How do you feel about that if you're someone that's an older player that still plays, and how do you feel about that if you're a newer player and you're ready to kind of have some excitement experiencing something like that, technically a boot enchant? Honorable mention that I believe they removed Lethal Tempo as a rune for the Precision Tree as a 80 carry player. I use Fleet Footwork from day one anyways, because the new rune system's great. It is an improvement. I do miss the old stack stick pages. I'm going to be honest though, I'm one of those people, because I don't like standard rune pages. And even though these new runes are great, it's really kind of standard. You got to pick standard, you got to pick standard stats and blah blah. I like doing wacky stuff, and you just can't in the new system, even if it is a better system. So yeah, as long as this one's still here, I don't got anything. But if you use Lethal Tempo, it is gone. But they are changing Overheal and Press the Attack to kind of compensate and make it feel maybe a bit more covering what Lethal Tempo did with the loss of it. So if you use Lethal Tempo, you might want to try out Press the Attack this patch. If not, I'm going to be on Fleet Footwork like I always am. So when you combine that with the Fairy Court Lux, Fairy Court Soraka, Fairy Court Lilia, Fairy Court Tristana, and Victorious Kog'Maw, you have yourself completed patch notes for patch 14.10 of League of Legends. Everything else in these patch notes do not matter. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because I can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. ggGetJinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.